Lewis, if God created everything, then why do we suffer, and why are there evil acts being performed on earth?
One of my favorite questions. So, God, source, blissful, unconditionally loving energy, created everything that is true. And that is true. That is 100% correct. And that I know for a fact in the knowing of my being. How do I prove it? I prove it as an experience for myself, because when I'm there, I'm in a state of peace. And what do I do to get there? I just simply rest in the heart. But what we know as the creation, the universe, earth, physical bodies, God has absolutely nothing to do with it. This entire universe, every single solar system, galaxy, planets, stars, meteors, all of it, the entire universe exists as an activity in a singular mind that has fallen asleep in God. As the Bible talks of the story of Adam, Adam is obviously God's first son. For want of a better word, God created him, put him on this planet, as the story goes. So Adam is a son of God. Adam falls asleep. In his dream, God takes his rib, he creates Eve. They have two children, Cain and Abel. Cain kills Abel. Now there's only three of them left. And yet Abel asked God to put a symbol over his head so the rest of the world wouldn't kill him. Where does the rest of the world come from? Well, the dreamer, Adam, and Adam is simply symbolic. There was no physical Adam, as in God created the world and put one creature down here. Adam is really symbolic of the singular mind that has fallen asleep and now is now dreaming of an Eve. He split himself up, the masculine, the feminine, and they make love, and now they create children. And so he's dreaming, and all of a sudden he's replicating, just as we do when we sleep at night. All of us dream of some places we've never been to. We dream of hundreds of people in our dreams. And the dreamer, the Son of God who's dreaming, who chose to experience the opposite of bliss, the opposite of God, he chose to fall asleep. And since he cannot leave God, he's simply fallen asleep. And he's now dreamt up this entire universe. God has no knowledge of this universe in its detail. God has no knowledge of I, Lou, as an individual, or you as an individual. God is simply aware that his son is dreaming a dream of separation. Because if God was to be aware of the content of his son's dream, simply by becoming aware of the content of his dream, it would make the dream real, and we would be trapped in a dream of separation. God is aware that his son is dreaming. As his son fell asleep, God spoke into his dream. He said, "Let there be light." The son focused on that dream, and you have the Big Bang, the beginning of the universe, where God's Holy Spirit, God's Spirit, in the form of light, enters the dream, and you now have the beginning of the universe, where space and time and matter takes place, the creation of solar systems and planets and stars and so forth. Eventually, over eons of time, 16.4 billion years or 13.2, depending on whichever scientist is speaking, we now have sentient form, thought in form, human beings. The dream is split into the spirit world and into the physical world, and we're trapped between the two. Yeah, we think this world is real. In the spirit world, we think that is real and this is a PlayStation. Of course, those that are playing in the PlayStation think this is real and that's some la-di-da place, depending on your belief system, or you think you're going to go straight to heaven, or if you've sinned, you're going to go straight to hell. So why is there evil in this world? Why do people suffer in this world? Well, people suffer in this world because they've projected into form and have chosen, and this is very difficult for someone to accept who's suffering, but you've chosen to suffer. And why would you choose to suffer? Why would you choose to come into this world only for a certain period of time? Why would you choose to come into this world, have a child who dies either at birth or when he is still a baby or when he's a young child or a teenager? Why would you want to suffer as a parent? Because suffering, as difficult as this may be to accept, those of you who have suffered or may be suffering, it's the suffering that got you to listen to this talk, or find a teacher, or find a church, or find a minister, or find a guru. It's the suffering which made you go looking for a better way. Our whole lives, we get busy, we buy into the thought system, the beliefs, the ideas of our parents, which become real for us. And we spend our entire lives trying to achieve something by making manifest people, places, things, and events in this world. And then we maybe learn the law of attraction. We realize that we focus on it and create vision boards or be present in that energy and give attention to that energy, we can manifest. And we do. And the law of attraction has gone and spread worldwide right now. It's making its inroads, but people are using law of attraction to attract more people, places, things, and events, more illusions into our lives, in the hope that by attracting more money, the right partner, the right job, the right home, the right holiday, the right experience, we're going to be happy. Still, so we're attracting illusions in the hope that it'll fulfill us. And yet no illusions do. People become successful and fame and wealth and notoriety, and yet they remain unhappy because you're trying to fill this emptiness in the self, in the separate self, with illusions, and no illusion can fill an illusion. And so the suffering takes us to a place where we seek a better way. And as we seek a better way, we find a path, and generally it starts with some form of forgiveness and acceptance of what is, the letting go of resistance to what is. And then eventually, if we're lucky, we get a sense of the essence of self. We get a sense of something that created us, something far greater than us. And hopefully we don't objectify it as a deity, as a God outside us that needs to be appeased. Perhaps if we're lucky, we let go of the idea of some karmic suffering, that we've done something wrong and we can't remember and we're being punished. So none of us are being punished other than by our own judgmental thoughts. It's our thoughts of separation, our defenses, that actually create more attack. And hopefully once we realize that it's our lack of awareness of the light of ourself that is suffering. Whereas pain can be and appear very real, suffering is simply an idea in the mind, and suffering is really an idea of the resistance to what is. And so because we resist what is, we suffer, and yet it's the suffering that gets us to seek another way. And eventually we get to that place where we surrender to what is, and we go, let go, let God. I surrender. I put my life in your hands. And when we truly surrender, not just say the words, but truly let go, there's a dying of the self, the separate self-identity. And that can appear to be very difficult. That's another form of suffering, because ego, body, mind doesn't want you to let go its identity because it fears its own death. It doesn't want you to find the self. It doesn't mind you stay on a seeking journey, because ego can very quickly turn the seeker into a doing, into an identity. And so we very often get trapped in spiritual identity, especially when it comes to the practice of magic, and belief that something outside us can fix us, and that something outside us is going to predict the perfect life for us, predict the perfect partner by playing with some cards or doing some magical moon ceremony. We're going to create again magical future and live out our fantastical dreams. It's our fantastical dreams that got us here in the first place. And so when we return to that silence within, when we return and rest in the heart, the temple to the I am, that which is the essence of our divine creator, from that, all delusion disappears. All separate self-identity disappears. And the self, the true self, the I am, is revealed. And from that place, you do not see suffering. So we all sought purpose in this life. We want to have a purpose. And we believe God created us and put us here for a purpose. And at first, if we're religious, we think that purpose is to worship him. Us, a separate entity, worshiping him, a separate entity. And so we believe that we're a being, and God must be a being. And God is not a being. While we appear in the dream state, while we appear in the illusion of the universe, we appear as separate beings. But when we dissolve the separate being, the light of awareness, we return to the awakened part of the mind, which is simply light, which is simply the essence of that which created us. And that which created us is everything. It's the light of everything. God is not a singularity, but everything. Cannot have a singularity in that which is everything. And so the idea of separation disappears, but also the idea of a purpose disappears. But while we appear to be in thought form, in that light of awareness, we now have a very unique function, and that is to bring the light of awareness to the world through the practice of forgiveness, by showing others a better way. And that forgiveness truly sets us free, because forgiveness reveals the light of awareness, reveals the self. Forgiveness is a illusion itself, but it's an illusion that ends all illusions, because first you're forgiving to unburden yourself of the grudge, perhaps. Then you realize I'm forgiving to release myself, release them, the other person. And then at a deeper stage, you realize there is no other self, there is no other person. I've created all this. I've created this illusion of suffering in order to realize there's nothing to forgive. And then there's a glad exchange where you exchange what appeared to once be suffering for the knowing of one's being. First, there comes the understanding. And then beyond the understanding, there's the knowing. As we move into that I amness, as we move into the awareness of the self. And when you're in that full state of conscious, present, benevolent, joyous awareness, you don't see suffering. You simply see the world as a stage playing out its separate stories as it takes what appears to be separate self through a similar process, and the same I am is revealed in what appears to be others, and then all others realize there is only one singular I am. There's only one dreamer. God only has one son, and that son was first realized by Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, all self-realizing. And as we awaken, we realize there is no more Jesus or Buddha or Lu or anyone else. There's simply a singularity, Son of God. And as soon as that is realized, the singularity disappears, and we dissolve into the light, which is God. And there is no us and God. There is no Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Lu, you in God. In God, there is not even one Son in God. It all is just simply God, the eternal light of love, peace, and joy, using words to describe that which is undescribable. There is no word to explain all-encompassing love, which has been there long before the universe existed and will be long after the illusion of the universe disappears. Suffering is simply a beautiful gift. And of course, you can only say that once you've been through it. It's only taken me 50 odd years to get there. And once you've been through what appeared to be suffering and slowly surrendered the separate body-mind identity, the light of awareness shone through, you realize how perfect all those terrible episodes of suffering have been. What a great gift they've been, because I wouldn't know my Holy Son of God self had it not been for these so-called dreadful lessons. And then there's just simply gratitude. And does it mean you die? No. Now you're meant to be awake. Now you're meant to be sharing this with all. You wouldn't be listening to this had I not realized it and realized now there's nothing to do but to simply be this, to simply be the light of awareness and share this, because I want it for everyone. I want everybody to share this joyous expression of being. And the self now wants to pour into the world, and I still want to ride my motorcycle. I still want to meet with friends. I still want to have dinner with like-minded consciousness. I still want to hear your stories of children and pets and dogs and your hobbies. I still want to play. I still love listening to blues and rock music and African blues. I still want to go on a hike. I still want to look at a sunset. I don't look at the sunset and go, the sun's not real. I still appreciate, but now I'm appreciating it as the self, as opposed to seeing it outside myself. And you no longer want to participate in the ugliness of the world. You won't be drawn to drama and stories of suffering. You'll just be sharing the light that you are, the infinite light of awareness, the blissful lightness of being with everything that comes in your path, because it's always here now.